This meeting is being recorded.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, Chapter 1, verses 1 to 22. Questions by Vidur. Verse 3.1.1. Sri Suk Uvacha Evam etat pura prasto Maitreyo Bhagavan Kila Shatravanam pravistena Tyaktava swagraham raddimata.
Shukadeva Goswami said, after renouncing his prosperous home and entering the forest, King Vidura, the great devotee, asked this question of His Grace Maitreya Rishi.
Verse 3.1.2. Yadava ayam mantra kradavo Bhagavana Akhileshwaram Pauravendra graham hitva pravivesata masat kratam.
What else is there to say about the residential house of the Pandavas? Shri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister, used to enter that house as if it were his own, and he did not take any care of Duryodhana's house.
Verse 3.1.3. Rajovacha kutrakshatura bhagavata maitreya nasa sangama kadava saha samvada etad varnaya naha prabho.
The king asked Shukadeva Goswami, where and when did the meeting and discussion take place between Saint Vidura and His Grace Maitreya Muni? Kindly oblige, my lord, and describe this to us.
Text 4. Nahi alpartho dayasa tasya vidurastha malatmanah tasmin vareyasi prasnah sadhu vado pradam hitahi.
Saint Vidura was a great and pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his question to His Grace Rishi Maitreya must have been very purposeful, on the highest level, and approved by learned circles.
Text 5. Sut uvacha sa evam rasi varayoyam prasto rajana parikshita pratyahatam subahuvita pritatma shrayatam iti.
Shri Sutta Goswami said, the great sage Shukadeva Goswami was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Was being questioned by the king, he said to him, please hear the topics attentively.
Text 6. Shri Shuk uvacha yada tu raja swasutam asadhum pushnam na dharmena vinasta drasti bhratur yavistasya chutana vilam vibandhuna praveshya laksha bhavane dadaha.
Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons, and thus he set fire to the Lak house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas.
Text 7. Yada sabhayam kurudeva devyah kesha bhimarsham sutta karma garaham navarayam asha nrupah snusayah swasnera haranyah kucha kunkumani.
The king did not forbid his son Dushasana's abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadi, the wife of a godly king Yudhishthira, even though her tears washed the red dust on her breast.
Text 8. Dyutetva adharmena jitasya sadhoha satyalambasya vanam gatasya na yachato data samayena dayam tamojusano yad ajat chatroha.
Yudhishthira, who was born without any enemy, was unfairly defeated in gambling. But because he had taken the vow of truthfulness, he went off to the forest. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of the kingdom, he was refused by Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion.
Text 9. Yadach partha pratitah sabhayam jagat gururayani jagat krishnaha natani mumas mu- natani pum, pumsam amartayana nani rajoru mene kshata punyaleshaha.
Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as a spiritual master of the whole world. And although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it was not so for others who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously.
Text 10. Yado pahuto bhavanam pravisto mantraya prastah kila purvajen atah tana mantra drasham variyana yanam mantrino vaidurikam vadanti.
When Vidura was invited by his elder brother, Dhritarashtra, for consultation, he entered the house and gave instructions which were exactly to the point. His advice is well known, and instructions by Vidura approved by expert ministers of state.
Text 11. Ajat shastro pratiyachadayam titikshato durvisaham tavagah sahanujo yatra vrakodararhiha swasana rusayat tvamam alam viveshi.
Vidura said, "You must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthira, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him."
Text 12. Partham sa tu devo bhagavan mukundo grahitavana sakshiti deva devaha aftesva yur puryam yadu deva devo vinirjita sesa nra deva devaha.
Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Shri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members, the kings and princes of the Yadu dynasty, who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their Lord.
Text 13. Sa esa doshaha purusha dvida afte grahana pravisto yam apatyamaya matya Pushnasi Krishnad Vimukho Gat Srisa Tyajasva Asaivam Kul Kaushalaya.
You are maintaining offense personified, Duryodhana, as your infallible son. But he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of all ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family.
Text 14. Iti Uchivamsa Tatra Suyodhanena Pravadda Kopa Spruhu Hirita Dhanena Asatkrataha Sat Spraha Hinya Yaha Shilaha Shatak Sakarnanuja Saubalena.
While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Shakuni.
Text 15. Ka enama atro puhuhava jihhamama dasyaha susata yada balinaiva pustaha tasmin pratipaha parakritya aste nirvasyata asu puracha swanaha swasanaha.
Who asked him to come here? The son of a kept mistress is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath.
Text 16. Swayam dhanura dvari nidaya mayam pratuha puro maryam marmasu taditopi sa itham atul bana karna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
We can hear you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Was being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart. Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of external energy to be supreme.
Hare Krishna.
Is Yogesh Prabhu okay? Or
Prabhuji, it's Sanskrit done now?
maybe because Prabhu got disconnected?
Krishna, Yogesh, are you able to speak?
Not many verses left. Would you like me till he returns? I can read both Sanskrit and English.
Yeah, please, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Sa nirgata kaurava punyalabdho gajav hayatirtha padapadane anvakramat punya chikir shayoravmyam adhishtito yani sahasramurti. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a higher order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated.
Text 18. Pureshu punyo pavanadri kunjeswa apankatoyesu sarita saharsu anantalingeha samalan ketatsu chachara tirthaya taneswa anyana ananyaha.
Welcome back, Prabhu. He began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarak, and Mathura. He traveled where the grove, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless, and where the forms of unlimited decorate the temples, whilst he performed the pilgrim's progress.
Text 19. Gama paryatana medya vivikta vritti sada pluto daha sayano vadutaha alakshitaha svaira avaduta veso vratani dhere haristo sanani.
While traversing the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord Hari. His occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places, although he was in the dress of a mendicant and had no hairdressing, nor a bed on which to lie, whereas he was always unseen by his various relatives.
Text 20. इत्थं व्रजन् भारतसेव भारतम् एव वर्षं क्लेन यावद् गतवान् प्रभासं तावच् चसासं क्षितिम् एकचक्रम् एकात् पत्रम् अजितेन पार्थः.
Thus, when he was in the land of Bharatavarsha, traveling of all the places of pilgrimage, he visited Prabha Sakshetra. At that time, Maharaj Yudhishthira was the emperor and held the world under one military strength and one flag.
Text 21. तत्राथ सुह्रद विनाक्षितं वनं यथ वेनुज वहनी संसार्यं समस्प्रादया दग्धहम् अथर्नुशोचनं सर्वसितिं प्रत्याग इत्यं तुष्णीम्.
At the place of pilgrimage at Prabhas, it came to his knowledge that all his relatives had died due to violent passion, just as an entire forest burns due to a fire produced by the friction of bamboos. After this, he proceeded west, where the river Saraswati flows.
Text 22. Tasyam tritasyo sanaso manosascha prathora athargenare asitasya vayoho tirtham sudasya sayagavam guhasya yach chakradesya sasya sa asicheve.
On the bank of the river Saraswati, there were 11 places of pilgrimage, namely Trita, Ushana, Manu, Prithu, Agni, Asita, Vayu, Sudasa, Go, Guha, and Shadadev. Vidura visited all of them and duly performed rituals. Thank you, and please forgive me for any offenses made. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Yogesh, for reciting the Sanskrit, and also to Pandavarjuna for reciting the English. Very nicely recited to both of you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is Krishna Govinda Das. Please accept my humble obeisances. I'll be reading the chat classes for today, 15th of September. And today's particular session is going to be on Canto 3, the status quo, Chapter 1, questions by Vidura. And the verses that we're going to read is 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, if someone could just let me know if I could see this.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, we can see it.
Oh, thank you so much. Let's just go to the right verse. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskritcham Naram Chaiva Narottanam Devam Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtashu Bhadrashu Nitya Bhagavata Saivaya Bhagavata Amatam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. So once again, read it from Canto 3, Chapter 1, verse 6. Shri Sukavacha Yadatu Raja Swasutana Sudun Pushna Nadarmena Vidashta Twishtihi Parto Yavistasya Sutam Vibandun Pravesya Lakshe Pavane Tadaha. The translation. Shri Sukadeva Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons. Thus he set fire to the lacquer as to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas. Purport by His Divine Grace, Asa Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth, but his blindness in committing impious activities to support his dishonest sons was a greater blindness than his physical lack of eyesight. The physical lack of sight does not bar one from spiritual progress, but when one is blind spiritually, even though physically fit, that blindness is dangerously detrimental to the progressive path of human life. So I'll do the introduction prayers. Please do join in. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshurmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivashakamitam Shah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sadadevi Pranamami Hare Priye Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachayane Nirvishesha Sunyamadi Paschatya Desatayane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasar Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you once again for joining today's session on chat. First of all, I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Swami, to his co-founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, and to all the Vaishnavas listening on this class, to those who are senior to me as well. Please kindly give me the blessing so I can say something which is of spiritual benefits to all of you on the wonderful topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. I'll go back to this particular verse. So I don't know if you recall last week we were talking about the senses and the mind and also the heart. Here we're talking about King Dhritarashtra. He became blind under the influence of impious desires. So Srila Prabhupada explains that although by birth he was blind, but also in his feelings, in his heart, in every thought of his process, that whatever activities that he was doing, was always so blindly led, specifically from his son Duryodhana, who's very envious of the Pandavas, because the Pandavas were considered to be more favorable by Lord Krishna himself. They were seemed to be more favorable and seemed to be more sort of respected by the community, respected by their spiritual master, their teacher, Dronacharya. They were also considered to be more capable, more competent than the Kauravas themselves in whatever activities they were performing, whether it was performing duties to serve in their spiritual master, Dronacharya, or performing acts of activities as set up by the Kshatriya kings and warriors in terms of like battle, in terms of like using bow and arrow, in terms of like using the different weapons. They seem to be very the masters of these particular weapons, which actually caused Duryodhana to be very, very, very selfish and very envious towards, caused a bit of hatred towards the Pandavas. Because the Pandavas, because the Kauravas were very blind, then similarly the father who has that natural tendency to protect their own children, by nature, they also want to show some favoritism to support them in such a way. So the next verse that we'll read is verse number 7. Yada sabhayam kurudeva devaya Kesha Bhimasham Sutakamagayam Navarayam Ashanipasnusaya Swasri Haranyata Kucha Kukumani. Translation: The king did not forbid his son Dushashan's abominable action of grabbing at the hair of Draupadi, the wife of the godly king Yudhishthira, even though her tears washed the red dust on her breast. So just remember, this is a conversation between Vidura, who is actually the brother of King Duryodhana, King Dhritarashtra. The third brother, who is King Pandu, unfortunately he passed away to a certain activity that he performed, that he was cursed due to certain activity he had also performed. So Vidura, he was very disheartened by the way Dhritarashtra was conducting the situation between the Kauravas, giving them favoritism over the Pandavas, even though the Vidura tried his best to actually try and speak to the king. But what had happened, his own nephew Duryodhana actually ridiculed Vidura. He blasphemed Vidura. He sort of said that you're always very favorable towards the Pandavas. You've never shown any sort of concern for the sons of King Dhritarashtra. And then he said harshful words towards Vidura. And even at that time, even being senior to Duryodhana, he kept his posture, he kept his frame of mind, he kept his tolerance. But what really upset him also, that the father, Dhritarashtra, didn't say anything at all, didn't condone the words, the harsh words by Duryodhana. So therefore he decided to leave his weapons, just abandon the Yatu palace itself, and started to go on a pilgrimage. And that's where he met by the riverbank, the great sage Maitreya. And then he was inquiring about the pastimes of Krishna. He was asking about what is happening, during the situation between the Pandavas and the Kauravas as well. So that was just one of the first things that we all have to learn, to be submissive to a spiritual leader, to a spiritual authority. We have to be submissive, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, to try to approach your bona fide spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So along with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, we have to combine these three important aspects in our spiritual journey to show that we are actually going along the right path. The Guru, if it's in the bona fide sampradaya, can impart knowledge unto you because he is actually has the same righteous knowledge that's been passed on from his authority, from his spiritual master, going from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna himself, which I'll cover in another verse later on. Then while this disciplic succession is passing this transcendental knowledge from one sampradaya to another sampradaya, from one spiritual master to another spiritual master, it's up to an individual who is very, very surrendered into understanding the rightful or the actual transcendental knowledge as spoken by the Supreme Lord, to follow these instructions as well, by the Guru, by the Sadhus, by the Vaishnava association, that is, and by Shastra. Fortunately, we have the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the Bhagavad Gita, we have the Nectar of Devotion, we have the Nectar of Instructions, the four most important books that Srila Prabhupada emphasizes that we should all read in order to develop our spiritual bhakti in supporting or serving the Supreme Lord, and also following the right sampradaya, in this case the sampradaya from Lord Brahma. Okay, and here we're seeing Dushashan is actually taking the hair of Draupadi. Draupadi is such a pious person. She's the wife of the 5 Pandavas, and he drags her into the arena in front of all the assembled kings, in front of all the seniors, in front of Dhritarashtra, in front of Bhishma Dev. She is the godly king. She is the wife of the godly king of Yudhishthira. And then, although Draupadi was dragged in, Yudhishthira was unable to do anything. Even the Pandavas, they were ready to destroy Dushashan, but unfortunately, Yudhishthira told him to hold yourself, maintain your posture. We have a certain code of conduct as a Kshatriya that we must follow and obey. So can anyone tell me what other sort of heinous acts the Kauravas did to the Pandavas? Can you name anything at all?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, they tried to
Yes.
burn their house where they lived.
Yes, that's right, because it was made out of wax and it could burn easily. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody else?
They gave poison to the Bhim.
Yeah, that's right. They gave poison to Bhima in the form of a cake. They tried to convince him to eat this food. They subdued poison inside it. And then when he became unconscious, they threw him into the bank. And when he sank to the bottom of the bank, the Varuna, he actually realized who this personality was. And then he gave him the benediction and he became even stronger than what he was. Anything else that the heinous crimes that the Kauravas did against the Pandavas?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, Namrata Mataji.
Prabhuji, the entire dice game that was based on cheating.
Yes, that's right. They actually convinced Yudhishthira. They knew he wasn't a very good at the dice game, but they cheated in the dice game. And as a result, they were exiled for 14 years. And during that time, they had to live in away from the luxurious life of their palace. They were stripped of their kingdom. They were stripped of their particular position as a kings as well. So these were like a lot of activities. So there's quite a few sort of things that one can actually do to actually defend himself against an aggressor when certain activities happens. Now, some of those things are recognized, also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. I'll just read this out to you. Prantapa means one who can give trouble to the enemies. It is the duty of the Kshatriya, enemies, aggressor, they shall be killed. There is no tayi. Tayi means one who is aggressor, one who kidnaps one's wife, one who takes away by force one's wealth, one who sets fire in one's house. These are called aggressors. There's also other sort of activities that ones also should be punished if they perform certain activities. Someone who comes to attack you as well. So these aggressors, they should be punished. So in the case of the Pandavas, all these activities were carried out by the Kauravas against the Pandavas. For instance, they tried to kidnap their wife, or not necessarily kidnap, but tried to seduce her, which is even worse than kidnapping one's wife. They tried to seduce her in such a very despicable way in front of all the Kshatriya kings. They tried to disrobe her, humiliate her, drag her by the hair. And actually, it's actually said, when I was in one of the class by a senior devotee, it so happens that Draupadi had the power to actually destroy the whole of the Kaurava dynasty. Now, she resented from doing this. Does anybody know the reason why she may not destroy the Kaurav dynasty? This was a question that somebody also asked. The reason being because Draupadi was also submissive to her husbands, the Pandavas, King Yudhishthira, and she knew that the king was able to do whatever he was without her trying to humiliate him in any way. So although she had the power, she had the strength, she had Krishna by her side, she had the ability to destroy Dushashan and Duryodhan, but she resented because she knew that she was actually being submissive to her husband. And if she did destroy the Kauravas, what would the Pandavas become? They would say that she was actually being handpicked by Draupadi, that they were subordinate to Draupadi themselves. But that was the reason why, this is what I was told in the class, that Draupadi resented or refused or to destroy the Kauravas. Of course, the Leela goes on that they were supposed to be banished for a particular reason. So this whole war was to take place. So some of the other activities that the Kauravas did against the Pandavas, as somebody mentioned, they gave a poisonous cake to Bhima. They built a city of wax, a palace of wax, which they burnt down while they were sleeping inside it. But luckily, somebody fortunately told them there was a hidden passageway where they could escape when the fire took place. The gambling match, they cheated them by the evil king, uncle of theirs, Sakoni, who sort of was very bent on trying to get the kingdom for the Kauravas as well. And together they schemed some sort of plan, schemes and plots to try and destroy the Pandavas, along with Duryodhana and all the brothers. They were exiled in the forest for 14 years. Draupadi was being destroyed as well, which we mentioned as sure. There was another thing that Duryodhana was very, very sneaky. He resented the Pandavas so much that he knew that if he found a way to destroy the Pandavas, then at least he could have the kingdom for himself. So there was a particular rishi by the name of Ambarish. Ambarish Muni had thousands of disciples. And what he did, he knew that if he was to please Ambarish Muni would grant him a boon. So it so happened that Ambarish Muni had come with his entourage of disciples to see Duryodhana. So what I'll do, if it's all right with you, I'll just read this passage out. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter 15, verse 11. So Ambarish Muni, he had about 10,000 disciples, and wherever he visited and became a guest of the great Kshatriya kings, he used to be accompanied by a number of his followers. Once he visited the house of Duryodhana, the enemy cousin of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Duryodhana was intelligent to satisfy the Brahmana. Actually, I won't be able to. I was going to share the screen. It's on another sort of computer at the moment. And he knew that also that the mystic Brahmana, if dissatisfied, could cause some havoc. And thus he designed to engage the Brahmana to show his wrath upon his enemy cousins, the Pandavas. When the rishis wanted to award some benediction to Duryodhana, the latter asked him to visit the house of Maharaj Yudhishthira, who was the eldest and the chief among the Duryodhana's cousins. But Duryodhana requested the rishi to go to Yudhishthira after the latter had finished his meals with his queen, Draupadi. Duryodhana knew that after Draupadi's dinner, it would be impossible for Maharaj Yudhishthira to receive such a large number of Brahmana guests, and thus the rishi would be annoyed and would create some trouble for his cousin Maharaj Yudhishthira. That was the plan of Duryodhana. The Rajamuni agreed to this proposal, and he approached the king in exile according to the plan of Duryodhana, after the king and Draupadi had finished their meals. On arrival at the door of Maharaj Yudhishthira, he was at once well received, and the king requested him to finish his noontime religious rites in the river. For that time, the foodstuff would be prepared. The Rajamuni, along with his large number of disciples, went to take a bath in the river. Maharaj Yudhishthira was in great anxiety about the guests. As long as Draupadi had not taken her meals, food could be served to any number of guests, but the rishi, by the plan of Duryodhana, reached there after Draupadi had finished her meals. So when the devotees are put into a difficulty, they have an opportunity to recollect the Lord with rapt attention. So Draupadi was thinking of Lord Krishna in that dangerous position, and the all-pervading Lord could at once know the dangerous position of his devotees. He therefore came near on the scene and asked Draupadi to give whatever food she might have in stock. When her being so requested by the Lord, Draupadi was sorrowful because the Supreme Lord asked her for some food, and she was unable to supply it at that time. She said to the Lord that the mysterious dish which she had received from the sun god could supply any amount of food if she herself had not eaten. But on that day she had already taken her meals, thus they were in danger. By expression, her difficulty, she began to cry before the Lord, as only a woman would do in such a position. The Lord, however, asked Draupadi to bring up the cooking pots to see if there was any particle of foodstuff left. And on Draupadi's doing so, the Lord found some particle of vegetable sticking to the pot. The Lord at once picked it up and ate it. After doing so, the Lord asked Draupadi to call for a guest, the company of Durasha. Bhima was sent to call them from the river. Bhima said, why are you delaying, sirs? Come on, the food is ready for you. But the Brahmanas, because our Lord Krishna has accepted a little particle of food, for sumptuously fed, even while they were in the water. They thought that since Maharaj Yudhishthira must have prepared many valuable dishes for them, and since they were not hungry and could not eat, the king would feel very sorry. So it was better to not to go there. Thus they decided to go away. This incident proves that the Lord is the greatest mystic, and therefore he is known as Yogeshvara. Another instruction is that every householder must offer food to the Lord, and the result will be that everyone, even a company of guests numbering 10,000s, will be satisfied because of the Lord's being satisfied. That is the way of devotional service. So I thought I'd share that with you because I thought it's quite pertinent in Duryodhana's schemes of trying to find a way to destroy the Pandavas in whatever way they can. And if he sent Ambarish Muni, who was a very intensive Muni, you may have known the story of Ambarish Muni, Ambarish, the great king Ambarish, when he felt he was dishonored by Ambarish, he decided to kill Ambarish, but then so happens that Lord Vishnu sent a chakra to send to try and attack. Forgot his name now. What was his name?
Was it Durvasha Muni?
Durvashmuli, sorry, Mataji, because there's Duryodhana, there's Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, they're all beginning with D. Thank you very much. So it just shows you that when you have complete faith in Krishna, when you think of Krishna in a difficult situation, when you think of Krishna, Krishna is always there to protect you. Smaranam, remembering Krishna. So now I'll just go into the next verse. This is verse number 8. Yudetva dharmena chitasya sado satya varambasya vanam gatasya naya chatoda samayena dayam damo jusano yadajata satso. Translation: Yudhishthira was born without any enemy, was unfairly defeated in gambling, but because he had taken the vow of truthfulness, he went off to the forest. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of his kingdom, was refused by Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion. Purport: Maharaj Yudhishthira was the rightful heir to his father's kingdom, but just to favor his own sons, headed by Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, Maharaj Yudhishthira's uncle, adopted various unfair means to cheat his nephews of the rightful share of the kingdom. At last the Pandavas demanded only 5 villages, one for each of the 5 brothers, but that was also refused by the usurpers. This incident led to the war of Kurukshetra, the battle of Kurukshetra, therefore was induced by the Kurus and not the Pandavas. As Kshatriyas, the proper livelihood of the Pandavas was only to rule and not to accept any other occupation. Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya will not accept employment for his livelihood under any circumstances. So some of you may recall last week I also mentioned about this, that the Pandavas, after the exile, the actual fulfillment was that they would get their kingdom back. But Yudhishthira and Duryodhana, after they plotting their schemes, decided not to give anything at all to the Pandavas at all. So then Krishna, as the mediator, he went to the Kauravas and said, look, at least give them 5 villages. Although they realized all the activities that they had done against the Pandavas, Yudhishthira was ready to forgive them, even after setting the palace of wax on fire, sending them on exile for 14 years, disrobing Draupadi. Although Bhishma wanted to keep his vow to destroy Dushashan for disrobing Draupadi, and also he wanted to smash the thighs of Duryodhana. Why? Because Duryodhana insulted Draupadi and said, here, come and sit on my lap in front of all the Kshatriya warriors. And this really angered Bhima so much that he said, I'm going to destroy your thighs, Duryodhana, for saying such insulting activities. But they just laughed it off. They didn't take it very seriously at all. No matter how many times Bhishma tried his best as well. But unfortunately, because he was under the rule of Dhritarashtra, he could not actually do any further sort of or get involved so much on the political side at all, because Duryodhana has such a strong hold of authority. So even though Krishna went and asked the Kauravas for 5 villages, Duryodhana refused. No, I won't even give him any land which is even the size of a tip of a pin. That's how envious that Duryodhana had become. Okay, the next verse. Verse number 9. Yada cha pata patiha sabhayam jagat guru yani jagat krishna natani pumsam amritayani rajuru mime shata punya lishaha. Translation: Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna to the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world. And although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it was not so for the others, who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. Purport: Lord Krishna is the spiritual master of the entire universe, accepted the duty of a messenger, and deputed by Arjuna, went to the assembly of King Dhritarashtra on a peace mission. Krishna is everyone's Lord, yet because he was transcendental friend of Arjuna, he gladly accepted the role of messenger, exactly like an ordinary friend. That is the beauty of the Lord's behavior with his pure devotees. He reached the assembly and spoke about peace, and the message was relished by Bhishma and other great leaders, because it was spoken by the Lord himself. But due to the exhaustion of the pious results of the past deeds, Duryodhana or his father Dhritarashtra do not take the message very seriously. That is the way of persons who have no credit of pious activities or deeds. By past pious deeds, one may become the king of a country, but because the results of pious acts of Duryodhana and company were dwindling, it became evident from their actions that they were sure to lose the kingdom to the Pandavas. The message of Godhead is always like nectar to the devotees, but it's just like the opposite to the non-devotees. Sugar candy is always sweet to a healthy man, but it tastes very bitter to persons suffering from jaundice. So before the battlefield of Kurukshetra, you all know that Krishna had transformed himself into his universal form because Arjuna wanted to see this particular universal form. But even though seeing this universal form, he felt very frightened. He saw the first form of the Lord in a way that he's never seen the Lord before. So then he transformed back to his two-armed form. But here, at the time when Krishna was actually sent for peace between the Pandavas and the Kauravas to say, please give the Pandavas 5 villages. Duryodhana, as mentioned here, he was very blind by selfishness, by envy, by hatred against the Pandavas. He refused to give anything at all. So at that time, he also wanted to arrest Lord Krishna because he felt that Lord Krishna was always favoring towards the Pandavas. And Lord Krishna showed his partial universal form, not the complete universal form, but a partial universal form. This is in Krishna Dharma's Mahabharata book. So even seeing this universal form, Duryodhana completely denied that Lord Krishna was any supreme authority. He was so blinded by envy, by lust, and that's mentioned here by Prabhupada was saying he was devoid of any pious deeds. So when you're devoid of any pious deeds, you become very demonic in your activities, your mind, your words, your behavior in every way. So when Lord Krishna showed his partial universal form, he couldn't believe that this is the Supreme Lord, and he asked his men to try and attack Krishna. But of course, Krishna laughed it off and smashed the warriors to pieces. But it just shows you why was it that he didn't recognize Krishna as the Supreme Lord. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna himself explains in chapter 9, verse 11, Avajananti mamuda manusim tanumashidam parambhavama jananto Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. Translation: Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. So even though the Lord can come in his transcendental nature, if you're bereft of any devotion, bereft of any pious activities, they cannot recognize the Lord as being the supreme personality of Godhead. And because in the human form, which are actually bereft of any pious activities, they do not see the supreme Lord in his supreme form. And also at the end, Srila Prabhupada actually mentions the message of Godhead is always like nectar to the devotees, but it's just opposite to the non-devotees. Sugar candy is always sweet to the healthy man, but it tastes very bitter to persons suffering from jaundice. So once again, Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 18, verse 37. Just for time, I'll just read the translation. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end, just like nectar, on which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness and the mode of goodness. So many people may come to Krishna consciousness, but they may not really feel accustomed to the holy name, feel accustomed to the prasadam, feel accustomed to the activities within the regulations, rules and regulations. Like a person who has actually been brought up in a society where illicit sex, gambling, meat eating, and intoxication takes place, to try and find something which they're sort of accustomed to, and find something which is nectarian. It almost tastes like poison at the beginning, but as they awaken the heart within or rather the soul within the heart, which is covered by the six enemies: anger, lust, greed, pride, envy, illusion, and they come to the joy of happiness, joy of goodness. The verse after that, 1838, Krishna says, as translated in English, that happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with the objects, which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be the nature of passion. So this is the opposite effect. Sometimes when you're doing gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, and so forth, it may taste like nectar at the beginning, but when you're losing all your money in gambling, then what does it feel like? It feels like you're bereft of everything. You've lost your life, you've lost your soul. Just similarly, when you have too much unnecessary affairs, you may feel happiness at the beginning, but what happens? Your body completely rejects everything itself. It just doesn't have any sort of value at all. Let's say for illicit intoxication, if you drink so much alcohol, drugs, smoking, completely destroys your body. So therefore, it's actually recognized that once you follow the spiritual master, the spiritual authority is Krishna. And because I can mention that Krishna is the supreme guru, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vivishwan. And Vivishwan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ishvaku. And this supreme science was thus received through a chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. I do ask for forgiveness for any mistakes that I've made, and do send any messages, comments, or any other thing that you may want to do on the chat. In the meantime, I'm going to pass you over to Sriji Kishori Mataji, who's going to arrange for somebody to sing a beautiful bhajan for today. Please excuse me, I have some activities I've got to carry on with, so I'll pass it over to you, Sriji Kishore Mataji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So now we're going to have Namrata Mataji, who's going to sing a very beautiful bhajan. But before Mataji sings, it's going to be Orpita, dear Orpita, who will be reading the English translation of tonight's bhajan. Over to you, Orpita Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I start or?
Yes, please. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Shri Hare Krishna. Translation. All glories to Radharani. All glories to the greatest of all queens. Sing the glories of Radharani, who lives in Barsana. All glories to Radha Thakurani, Queen Radha, who is the beloved of Sri Hari. All glories to the beloved daughter of King Rishabhanu. All glories to Radharani, who has a fair complexion and golden limbs. All glories to the princess of the king of Raja. All glories to the queen of Raja. All glories to the goddess of Raja. All glories to Radha, who wanders in the Vara forest. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Arpita, for a wonderful recitation. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji, for sharing the screen. And thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me, Jyoti Mataji?
Hare Krishna, yes, Mataji.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. So the bhajan is Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai. Hare Krishna. Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai. Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai. Bolo barsane wali ki jai, jai, jai. Bolo barsane wali ki jai, jai, jai. Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai. Radha Rani ki jai, Rani ki jai, Thakur Rani ki jai, Hari Priya ki jai, Thakur Rani ki jai, Hari Priya ki jai, Vrishabhanu Dulari ki jai, 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 Vrishabhanu Dulari ki jai, 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 Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai, Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai, Gaurangi ki jai, Hemangi ki jai, Gaurangi ki jai, Hemangi ki jai, Vraja Kumari ki jai, 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 Vraja Raja Kumari ki jai, 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 Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai, Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai, Vraja Rani ki jai, Vraja Devi ki jai, Vraja Rani ki jai, Vraja Devi ki jai, Gauravanvari ki jai, 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 Gauravanvari ki jai, 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 Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai, Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai, Bolo barsane wale ki jai, 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 Bolo barsane wali ki jai, jai, jai. Hari Bol. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Absolutely beautiful, Namrata Mataji. Thank you so much. And thank you to Arpita too for the beautiful recitation, and to Jyoti Mataji for sharing the lyrics of the bhajan and for the verses as well. Thank you so much. So, dear devotees, we've come to the end of our class today, and we can all recite the Vaishnava prayer now. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.